I'm Christy.
And I'm Auntie B, and we are
Homebrew
Murder Crew. Yay!
Special guest appearance by Matthew the Mothman.
Matthew the
Mothman.
I like how we're always taking different things and giving it the name Matthew. Because remember, like, our cat we adopted, McConaughey?
Yeah.
McConaughey.
Remember I had an ex named Matt?
Yeah.
And I thought about that.
I remember, but I'd like to forget.
But I just 20 minutes ago named this stuffy Matthew. I was like, oh, but I have an ex named Matt. And I was like, you know what? But he was like a moth. Like, he was gross.
Yeah.
He's like a moth.
And if you're listening, you're a moth.
Yeah, you're a moth. So thank you so much for joining me, Brittany, on this microbrew remote journey here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you and Megan are sick. So Megan's not here. She's packing up her house. She doesn't have a microphone. She doesn't have access to really anything at this point. So it is just you and I, which has been a long time. I don't think it's ever just been you and I, has it?
Well, yeah, no, it was that one time when we did an episode that Megan needed to leave, and then we did a
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. We haven't done
fairly
remote.
recent. No, we haven't done remote.
I'm in my son's bedroom. This is my son's room.
Oh, so cute. How is a little baby H?
He's good. He's been teething, so he's been a bit of a grumpy guest, but
yeah.
So yeah, last couple of days around here has been a whole lot of nothing because we've all just been trying to get through the day.
Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, speaking of things that like bring you down and make you not able to do much of anything, can you remember like tell me about the last time you were like super sick and you had to like basically quarantine yourself from everybody, and you like how long were you out for? What did that look like?
I think the last time I was really super sick was right before COVID. And it was like weeks before Canada shut down. And so I'm pretty sure I had COVID at that time, but I was really, really sick. And it was like 2 weeks I was out or something. But the one that sticks in my head is actually like a few years ago when I was working at CIBC and I was like on my couch dying for a week. And it was actually kind of the best week ever because it happened to be Shark Week. Oh. So I was so sick and dying and just watching sharks for 7 days straight.
Oh, I really thought that you meant that you were on your period for a second. And
that would have been funny though. Also, I apologize because I've been fighting a cold. I'm going to be sitting here sniffling and blowing my nose.
Totally fine.
Lovely.
Totally fine.
I know.
Well, I think last time I was super sick and had to quarantine myself was actually when I got COVID. And that was April of 2021.
Yeah. 2022.
2022.
I can't remember.
I do too. Because it was just before I started at the clinic here in Okotoks. And I had to push my start date back because of it. But anyways, I remember testing positive, staying up in my room and like chills and everything. And it was just like, and that whole pandemic or panorama, whatever you want to call it, don't hate on us, please. It is what it is. It happened. We can't go back. We can't change our choices, whatever. But it was very isolating. And so today I want to talk about something that was equally as isolating for a specific person. And during this time, essentially, with what was going around. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Microbrew. Can you hear the choo-choo train in the background?
I can. I was wondering what that was.
Hopefully editing will take that out. Also, hopefully it'll take out anytime M is singing Alleluia. You just keep singing.
I hope it doesn't.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Secretly, I hope it doesn't too. But so let's get into this. By the way, just before we really get going in it, this is basically the last week. Well, we're recording early-ish. Well, you guys are going to get this the day after we record it. Last week of free microbrews on our Patreon. So that's patreon.com/homebrewmc, free microbrews for the month of April. I think we're going to extend it until the end of next week, but so into May. But I'm thinking that I'm going to post this one to Spotify. We're going to we're going to release this one to the
Yay,
wild.
that's
And
exciting.
yeah, just so that everybody knows, like, this is kind of what we do, is shorter little snippet episodes. I actually don't have any anticipation of how long this is going to be, but probably not that long, since my brain is literally like throbbing out of my eyeballs. So
Yeah, I
we'll
think
do
our
the
audience
best that
will
we can.
forgive us. I think we're doing
Yeah.
rather well, still getting an episode out, even though two of us are sick and one of us is migraine riddled.
Yeah. So that being said, there's not going to be. Yeah. It feels like somebody gave me an ice pick lobotomy, but like, it's fine.
Hi,
yeah,
you join Mulder's Club.
Yeah, right. Totally. But yeah, so if you're listening to this on Patreon on Sunday, April 27th, then there is no regular episode this week, just due to extenuating circumstances that are beyond our control. However, if you're listening to this on I'm pulling up my calendar, May 1st. If you're listening on May 1st, then you still have the weekend, today and the weekend, to go and binge listen / watch our microbrews on patreon.com/homebrewmc.
Yeah.
This one included, but it's to the wild. Anyways, I digress. Are you ready to talk about some disease or whatever this is?
Always.
All right, so we talked about what ails us. Well, let's understand a little bit about what typhoid fever is.
Typhoid?
Typhoid fever.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So typhoid fever is a bacterial infection caused by Salmonella typhi. It is a serious illness that affects various organs in the body, and it can lead to severe complications if not treated promptly. And this disease is prevalent in areas with poor sanitation and limited access to clean water. Symptoms include typically they develop gradually over 1 to 3 weeks after exposure to the bacteria, and they can be divided into several stages. So the initial stage is a fever, which gradually increases over several days, weakness and fatigue, headache. I have a headache. I have typhoid.
I was going to say, so far I'm 3 for 3.
mild abdominal pain, loss of appetite, and a cough. So this could be anything, really.
Yeah.
There's so many things that fall under this umbrella. But the second stage, as the illness progresses, more severe symptoms can occur, including a high fever, often rising over 104 degrees Fahrenheit, severe abdominal pain, rizzles, and constipation, which are like you're either constipated or you have diarrhea. Like, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, like no happy ground, just one extreme or the other.
Give me a normal bowel movement, please. That's all I ask in life. Fuck. A rash known as rose spots, which are small pink spots on the abdomen and chest, and an enlarged spleen and liver. So if you notice your spleen getting larger,
what? I notice it's happening all the time.
Call 811. All the time. So complications, if left untreated, include intestinal perforation, which can cause peritonitis, severe bleeding, sepsis, a widespread infection throughout the body, and neurological symptoms, including confusion and delirium. I'm always confused. I am neurologically inappropriate, so guilty as charged. Whoops. So there's also this thing, we heard about this during the whole panorama, whatever you want to call it. People get so pressed by hearing the actual term pandemic or COVID or whatever, but we don't really do trigger warnings here that often.
Yeah,
so
no.
It is what it is.
Life
deal with
is
it.
One gigantic trigger warning, and just
it
deal
is.
With it.
Oh, you were born trigger warning.
Yes. Oh, I'm triggered today. I woke up. Oh, shit.
It's like every year, instead of singing happy birthday, it's happy trigger warning to you. Next year's gonna suck too.
Cheers to that. Through the camera, cheers.
Cheers. I made myself a Caesar. What are you drinking?
I am drinking water. I know I'm drinking from a red Solo cup, so it doesn't seem like it's water.
It doesn't seem like water. It is water.
I can't find my water mug, so gotta stay hydrated.
You gotta stay hydrated. So one of the unique aspects of typhoid fever, as we heard about with COVID as well, is this whole carrier aspect where you're like asymptomatic. So, the existence of asymptomatic carriers. These individuals harbor the bacteria in their bodies, particularly
Sorry.
particularly in their gallbladder, and can shed Salmonella typhi in their stool, also known as poo, shit,
Crap, duty,
excrement. What are we missing? I feel like we're missing a big one, but
we're missing lots. I feel like there's too many.
Which, as you can imagine, if without proper hygiene, this is going to contaminate food, water sources without showing any symptoms themselves. And this was notably exemplified by a certain case that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that case, I want to talk about prevention and treatment. Preventing typhoid fever involves improving sanitation and access to clean water, which many people don't have.
Yeah, in Canada too.
Even in what is considered first world countries.
Yeah. Hey, remember when the water went out in Calgary and everyone was like up in freaking arms for like weeks because we had to like consume our water properly? Like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Conserve.
Thank you. And it's like, okay, now imagine that, but actually not having any clean water ever. And you still live in Canada and you're Canadian. Yeah. FYI, we're talking about Indigenous people on reserves. Anybody out there that may not know, yes, there are reserves out there in Canada that do not have clean drinking water.
Yeah.
Put that in your back pocket.
Yeah. And along with something like typhoid fever, without access to clean water, you're also dealing with other pathogens like as known as beaver fever or giardia. There's also leptospirosis, which is disgusting. This is all disgusting. And your pets can get it too. So don't let your pets drink from dirty puddle waters.
Yeah.
Let that be a public service announcement for you today. So the treatment typically involves antibiotics, which can effectively eradicate the bacteria if administered promptly. Early diagnosis and treatment are crucial in preventing complications and ensuring a swift recovery. But basically, typhoid fever, just pretty severe, manifests through a range of symptoms, mild to life-threatening. Transmission is predominantly through contaminated food and water, and the presence of asymptomatic carriers complicates efforts to control the spread, as is seen in the case of one Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid Mary.
Who we're going to talk about. She became affectionately, quote unquote, known as Typhoid Mary, but her name was Mary Mallon. Mallon. I probably should have looked at how to pronounce that, but it's Mallon. So take your pick. Mallon.
No, Malone would be Malone, I believe. Yeah. So Mallon.
Okay. Mary Mallon, more famously known as Typhoid Mary. She was an Irish cook who immigrated to the United States and became the first person in the country identified as an asymptomatic carrier of the pathogen associated with typhoid fever. No, she didn't bring typhoid fever over necessarily. She's the first person identified as an asymptomatic carrier. So her story is fascinating.
She has it in her, essentially.
Yeah, but she doesn't know this because she's asymptomatic. She doesn't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
Right? So plus or minus, she brought it over. Who knows? Maybe she picked it up when she got here. I don't know. Like, nobody knows. Yeah. Because she didn't have symptoms before she came. She didn't have symptoms after she came. So her story is a fascinating and tragic tale of public health, individual rights, and challenges dealing with infectious diseases in the early 20th century, which we had these challenges during 2020 and that whole pandemic. And so this is, they might hit a little bit close to home and really makes you think about like how far we've come from this case in the early 1900s versus everything that went on during COVID. And where do we go from there? So Mary Mallon was born in 1869 in Cookstown County, Tyrone, Ireland. She may have been born with typhoid fever. Again, we don't know, as her mother was infected during pregnancy. But again, we don't know. So in 1884, at the age of 15, she emigrated from Ireland to the United States, and she lived with her aunt and uncle for a time and worked as a maid, but eventually became a cook for affluent families, which is a pretty good job, you know, cooking for the rich, right? From 1900 to 1907, Mallon worked as a cook in New York City area for 8 families, seven of whom contracted typhoid fever. So again, she worked for 7 years, 1900 to 1907. She worked as a cook in New York City for 8 families. 7 of those families contracted typhoid fever. I don't know how many people in each family, but
7 of the 8 families.
Yeah. In 1900, she worked in Mamaroneck, New York, where within 2 weeks of her employment, residents developed typhoid fever. In 1901, she relocated to Manhattan, where members of the family for whom she worked developed fevers and the diarrheals. I can't say diarrhea. Like, I'm going to say diarrheals. Mallon then went to work for a lawyer and left after 7 of the 8 people in that household became ill. In June of 1904, she was hired by a prosperous lawyer, Henry Gilsey. Soon, 4 of the 7 servants were ill. No Gilsey family members were infected because they resided separately and the servants lived in their own houses. Immediately after that outbreak began, Mallon left and relocated to Tuxedo Park, where she was hired by George Kessler. 2 weeks later, the laundry worker in his household was affected and taken to St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center, where her case of typhoid was the first in a long time. The investigator, Dr. R.L. Wilson, concluded that the laundry worker had caused the outbreak, but he failed to prove it. The laundry worker died soon after.
Died. Wow.
Died. Yeah. In 1906, Mallon began a job in Oyster Bay on Long Island with the family of a wealthy New York banker, Charles Eliot Warren. Mallon went along with the Warrens when they rented a house in Oyster Bay for the summer of 1906. And from August 27th to September 3rd of that year, 6 of the 11 people in the family came down with typhoid fever. I lost my spot.
Like contagious, and she still has no
contagious.
Giving everybody this.
No,
that's crazy.
Because she never will. She never will. So, according to 3 medical doctors, the disease at the time was unusual in Oyster Bay. The landlord, understanding that it would be difficult to rent a house with the reputation of having typhoid, hired several independent experts to find the source of the infection. They took water samples from pipes, faucets, toilets, and the cesspool, all of which were negative.
Can you hang on one second?
Yeah.
Can you hang on one second? My son's hatch just turned on.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Sorry.
So, what the fuck is a cesspool? How do I not know what that is?
It's kind of like, isn't it just like kind of a derogatory term for like a place with a lot of people and germs?
I know, yeah, now it is. But they're like, oh, they took water samples from the pipes, the faucets, the toilets, and the cesspool, which is an underground container for the temporary storage of liquid and waste. Oh, okay. So, yeah, other terms for that, or other descriptions, or like
a scientific term for it.
Yeah,
instead of just a bunch of
literal term for it. Yeah. So George Soper, an investigator hired by the Oyster Bay property owner after the outbreak there, had been trying to determine the cause of the typhoid outbreaks in affluent families when it was known that the disease typically occurred in unsanitary conditions. So, like, these are affluent families. They're rich. They have maids. Like, how is this happening? Everything's clean as a whistle, you know? He discovered that a female Irish cook who fit the description, the physical description he had been given, was involved in all of the outbreaks. He was unable to locate her because she generally left after an outbreak began without giving a forwarding address. The Park Avenue outbreak helped to identify Mallon as the source of the infections. Soper learned of the case while it was still active and discovered Mallon was the cook. Soper first met Mallon in the kitchen of the Bones Park Bounds, Bownes, Bounces,
Bounds.
Bounces,
Bonies?
Park,
Boness?
Bo,
Oh, no, not Boness.
Bound Chickawows, Park Avenue penthouse, and accused her of spreading the disease. So he met her. He tracks her down in the kitchen of the Bounds, whatever, Park Avenue penthouse, and he accuses her of spreading this disease. Though Soper himself recollected his behavior as diplomatic as possible, he absolutely pissed her the fuck off. Understandably, like, you're not even sick. However, it's like,
don't come up in here blaming me.
but I mean, it is suspicious that, like, once all these outbreaks happen, you leave. But at the same time, is it really? Because it's like, well, I don't fucking want to get it. I'm peacing out. I'm gonna dip.
Yeah.
Like, it is, but it isn't. Like, it can easily
there
be
maybe
explained.
a point in time where you wonder to yourself too, this keeps happening everywhere I go. So maybe it's me.
Everywhere I go, people always die. It's me. Hi.
It's me.
I'm the problem. It's me. So, so yeah, she was not happy about that. In fact, she was so unhappy. She was so displeased by this that she threatened him with a carving fork.
Oh, well, that's aggressive.
When Mallon refused to give samples, Soper decided to compile a 5-year history of her employment. And he found that of the 8 families that had hired her as a cook, members of 7 complained to have contracted typhoid fever. Then Soper learned where Mallon's boyfriend lived and arranged a new meeting there. And so his name is Raymond Hubler, and he took him to persuade Mary to give them urine and stool samples for analysis. And Mallon again refused to cooperate, claiming that typhoid was everywhere and the outbreaks just happened because of contaminated food and water. It's not my fucking fault. At that time, the concept of healthy carriers was unknown even to healthcare workers. Nobody knew that you could be an asymptomatic carrier.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry if I'm stumbling on my words. I promise I'm not drunk. I'm just like neurologically inappropriate again. My brain is fried. Migraines.
I don't judge you.
Okay, thank you. So sober. I'm sober.
Speaking of, that's hilarious.
Oh my God. Okay. Soper. Soper published his findings on June 15th, 1907 in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And he wrote, quote, "It was found that the family changed cooks on August 4th. This was about 3 weeks before the typhoid epidemic broke out. The new cook, Mallon, remained in the family only a short time and left about 3 weeks after the outbreak occurred. Mallon was described as an Irish woman about 40 years of age, tall, heavy, single." Like, that matters.
Yeah.
Like, what is your weight and your marital status? Like, fuck off. She seemed to be in perfect health. Soper notified the New York City Health Department, whose investigators realized that Mallon was a typhoid carrier. By sections 1169 and 1170 of the Greater New York Charter, Mallon was arrested as a public health threat.
Excuse
so this
me?
is what I mean. Yeah, this is what I mean that it comes into play. Like, remember COVID times where it's like you had to keep like 6 feet apart. You couldn't go visit people. If you were caught like commingling other than your cohort,
yeah,
then you were going to get in shit for it. You know?
But, like,
so she was fucking arrested.
Yeah, so here's this time back way when, though, and it's like, okay, now you're just, what did you get arrested for? Germs.
Yeah, right?
What do you say?
Right. So
That's nuts.
so she was arrested for being a public health threat. Fucking Christ. She was forced into an ambulance by 5 policemen and Sarah Josephine Baker, who at some time had sit on Mallon to restrain her. Mallon was
I'm sorry, I'd go kicking and screaming too. I'd be like, I didn't do anything. I'm not going anywhere.
What about my rights? Like,
yeah.
What have I done that I'm criminally responsible for? You cannot prove that anything at this point. So why are you arresting me? Under what? Like, oh, it's fucking crazy. So yeah, this one fucking Sarah without an H, because H's are L.
Yeah.
She sits on her fucking chest to restrain the poor woman.
Jesus.
For 4 days, she wasn't allowed to get up and use the bathroom on her own.
Why?
Because they were trying to get stool samples.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
They didn't want her to get rid of it,
by yourself.
Yeah. Shit in this cup. Shit in my cup.
We're arresting you, and you can't shit in private until
you are under arrest, and you must submit your poo-poo in this cup. Fuck me, man. The massive numbers of typhoid bacteria that were discovered in her poopy samples, though, indicated that the infection source was in her gallbladder. During questioning, Mallon admitted that she almost never washed her hands. Okay, arrested. Yeah, that's grounds. Yeah, don't be disgusting. Oh my God.
Wash your hands, people.
And I don't know what like personal hygiene looked like in the 1900s. Like, I have no idea. I know it's not what it is today.
Yeah, no, I feel like it was still, if she's talking about how she never washed her hands, she knew she should, and she didn't.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters.
Like, you're preparing food for rich people.
Yeah.
Wash your damn hands, girl. So this was, okay, here we go. It's not unusual at the time. It wasn't unusual at the time. The germ theory of disease still wasn't fully accepted. So they didn't really understand how germs were spread at this time. But on March 19th, 1907, Mallon was sentenced to quarantine on North Brother Island, which is kind of going to be a whole other different microbrew on its own. Branch out there. North Brother Island is like this creepy, it's completely abandoned now, overgrown, an island off of New York that
sounds like I want to go there.
Yeah, like it had this like sanitarium there, and now it's completely abandoned. It's empty. It's a ghost town, right? But that's where she was sent. So while quarantined, she gave stool and urine samples 3 times a week. Authorities suggested removing her gallbladder, but she refused because she claimed that she did not believe she carried the disease at the time, despite them testing her positive for it.
At that time, I'd also be like, can I get out of jail? Fucking do it if I can get out of jail. Fuck.
Right. Well, she's not in jail anymore. She's in quarantine at this place, this infirmary, right? But still, it's completely isolated, and you're with a bunch of other sick people, and you're probably going to go insane, and you're probably going to haunt the place eventually. But at the time, gallbladder removal was dangerous, and people died from the procedure. So that was a risk. Mallon was also unwilling to stop working as a cook, a job that earned her more money than any other, which this is what I understand. It's like, I understand banning you from certain jobs based on the fact that you have a highly infectious disease that you're an asymptomatic carrier of. That's fine. Maybe not to the extreme of like dumping you onto an island to never be seen or heard from again. But like, maybe you're just like banned from being a cook. But she refused.
I mean, nowadays though, I mean, I wouldn't mind being like, hey, you know what? Fine, quarantine me, throw me on a goddamn island and leave me alone.
Honestly, preferable to whatever the fuck is going on here. Preferable. So having no home of her own, she was always on the verge of poverty. After the publication of Soper's article in the Journal of the American Medical Association, Mallon attracted extensive media attention and received the nickname Typhoid Mary. Later in the textbook that defined typhoid fever, she again was termed Typhoid Mary in a fucking textbook. You guys,
So
come
scientific.
on.
Wow.
The fuck on. Soper visited Mallon in quarantine, telling her he would write a book and give her part of the royalties. She angrily rejected this proposal because she's fucking Typhoid Mary. She's got this horrible nickname. And she locked herself in the bathroom until he left. She hated the nickname and wrote in a letter to her lawyer, quote, I wonder how the said Dr. William H. Park would like to be insulted and put in the journal and call him or his wife Typhoid William Park. End quote. Fucking true.
Well, yeah. I mean,
like you're
so
already going through this shit. Yeah. Like, well, that's Typhoid Mary. Fuck.
Can we just call her Mary? Like, it doesn't need to be her signature.
Yeah, right.
Identifier.
Like, she signs her emails in 2025. Regrettably yours, Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid Mary.
So, not all medical experts endorse the decision to forcibly quarantine Mallon. For example, Milton J. Rosenau and Charles V. Chapin they both argued that she just had to be taught to carefully treat her condition and ensure that she would not transmit it. To others, both considered isolation to be completely unnecessary, overly strict punishment. Mallon suffered from a nervous breakdown after her arrest and forcible transportation to the hospital. And that's another thing, is now you're really fucking with people's psyche, whatever. In 1909, she tried to sue the New York Health Department, but her complaint was denied and the case dismissed by the New York Supreme Court. In a letter to her lawyer, she complained that she was treated like a guinea pig, quote unquote. She was obliged. Yeah, she was obliged to give samples for analysis 3 times a week, but for 6 months was not allowed to visit an eye doctor, even though her eyelid was paralyzed and she had to bandage it at night. Fucking shitty. Her medical treatment was hectic. She was given urotropin in 3-month courses for a year, threatening to destroy her kidneys. That was, I feel like that is maybe an antibiotic.
Also, all of this, and she doesn't show any symptoms whatsoever. So to go through all of this and not be sick.
Yeah. So that was changed to, she's given urotropin. What is urotropin? Urotropin. Because then they're saying, it's saying, my notes are saying, which I should have probably pre-read. I wrote this a long time ago. So urotropin was threatening to destroy her kidneys. So that was changed to brewer's yeast. So and urotropin in increasing doses. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So I'm thinking it's like urotropin, also known as hexamethylentramine or methenamine, used for urinary tract antiseptic and antibacterial. So yeah, it's an antibiotic. So she was given that, and she's getting, it's not any antibiotic, especially like broad spectrum antibiotics, are going to be pretty harsh on your system. And that's why they tell you to take antibiotics with food. That's why they tell you to complete your entire course of antibiotics. Yeah. But if you're taking it in large doses for extended periods of time, your body also is going to become resistant to those treatments. So she was first told that she had typhoid in her intestinal tract, then in her bowel muscles, and then in her gallbladder. Mallon herself claimed never to believe that she was a carrier. With the help of a friend, she sent several samples to an independent New York laboratory. So she's thinking, like, you guys are fucking lying. You're taking my poop and my pee and you're lying. You're testing it and it's coming back positive, but you're lying. So all actually came back when they sent it to this independent lab in New York, all came back negative for typhoid.
What?
Mm-hmm. On North Brother Island, almost a quarter of her analysis from March 1907 through June 1909 were also negative. After 2 years and 11 months of Mallon's quarantine, Eugene H. Porter, the New York State Commissioner of Health, decided that disease carriers should no longer be quarantined and that Mallon could be freed if she agreed to stop working as a cook and take reasonable efforts to avoid transmitting typhoid to others. On February 19th, 1910, Mallon said she was, quote, prepared to change her occupation, that of a cook, and would give assurance by affidavit that she would, upon her release, take such hygienic precautions as would protect those with whom she came in contact with from infection, end quote. She was released from quarantine and returned to the mainland. Upon her release, Mallon was given a job as a laundry worker, which paid less than cooking, about $20 per month at this time. Oh my God. Instead of $50 per month. After a time, she wounded her arm and the wound became infected, meaning that she could no longer work at all for 6 months. And after several unsuccessful years, she started cooking again. She used fake surnames like Brushoff or Brown and accepted jobs as a cook against the explicit instructions of health authorities. Also, you signed an affidavit.
Yeah, you did.
So,
Yeah, you did, sweetie. You
Yeah,
signed something.
you can't do that.
No,
No.
that's
So
not allowed.
no agencies that hired servants for affluent families would offer her employment. So for the next 5 years, she worked in a number of kitchens and restaurants, hotels, and spa facilities. Almost everywhere she worked, there were outbreaks of typhoid. However, she changed jobs frequently, and Soper was again unable to find her. In 1915, Mallon started working at Sloan Hospital for Women in New York City, and soon 25 people were infected and 2 of them died. The chief obstetrician, Edward B. Cregan, called Soper and asked him to help in the investigation. Soper identified Mallon from the servants' verbal descriptions and also by her handwriting. So Mallon fled again, but the police were unable to find and arrest her when she took food to a friend on Long Island. Mallon was returned to quarantine on North Brother Island on March 27th, 1915. Little is known about her life during the second quarantine. She did remain there for another 23 years.
In quarantine?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And because she was there for so long, the authorities gave her her own private 1-story cottage.
I'm not seeing this being so bad. No, I mean it is, but that's
Hi,
insane.
I'm Typhoid Christy, and
Yeah, I would like a cabin, please, on an isolated island.
Yeah. Oh my God. So she organized a laboratory on the second. Wait, hold on. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Rewind. They gave her a cottage. As of 1918, she was allowed to take day trips to the mainland. In 1925, the physician Alexandra Pavlovska came to the island for an internship. She organized a laboratory on the second floor of the chapel and offered Mallon a job as a technician. Mallon washed bottles, did recordings, and prepared glasses for pathologists. After Mallon was sent into her initial quarantine, the newspapers changed their opinion of the case. The articles at first mentioned how Josephine Baker claimed Mallon attacked her and the doctors with forks and came at them fighting and swearing. Later, the press articles shifted the blame away. Why do I feel like that came out of fucking nowhere?
Kinda.
Something happened with my notes here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let me skip. Okay, so essentially, she's there for 23 years. She's going fucking nuts. Her mental health isn't great. So she's got this job. She's like a technician, like a lab technician. She's helping out and everything, but she's going nuts. She's attacking people with fucking forks. She's fighting. She's swearing. But so this is all hitting the press. It's all going into the newspapers and everything. And like, oh, fucking crazy Typhoid Mary. But after a while, the press article shifted the blame away from her and instead like focused on the fact that like her treatment and how she's being treated based off of all of this and all that's happened to her. So they claim that she was unaware that she's carrying anything, and instead germs it's the spread of germs that's not her to blame necessarily. It's about everybody becoming aware of how to help prevent the spread of germs and proper hygiene. So despite this shift, she was still popularly understood and had believed that she was contagious. And most people believed that she was contagious. The newspapers also claimed that she was prohibited from using the telephone to contact anybody except the surgeons that were treating her. Stories that once celebrated the public health department and the legal system eventually became sympathetic to Mary and the events that she supposedly encountered. Public health officials claimed the opposite, that she was treated to the best of their abilities, but she refused to comply, yada, yada. Mary spent the rest of her life in quarantine at Riverside Hospital on North Brother Island. The rest of her fucking life in quarantine.
That's insane.
She was quite active until 1932 when she suffered a stroke, and afterwards she was confined to the hospital. So from her cottage to the hospital at that point. She never completely recovered from that, and half of her body remained paralyzed. On November 11th, 1938, she died of pneumonia at age 69. Mary's body was cremated, and her ashes were buried at St. Raymond Cemetery in the Bronx, and 9 people attended her funeral.
Wow.
So some sources claim that an autopsy found evidence of live typhoid bacteria in Mary's gallbladder. Soper wrote, fucking Soper, fucking back again. However, that there was no autopsy, a claim cited by other researchers to assert a conspiracy to calm the public opinion after her death. Mary's case became the first in which an asymptomatic carrier was discovered and isolated forcibly. The ethical and legal issues raised by her case are still discussed. And I think we all discussed ethical treatment of people and how we handled things during our pandemic, of our time. Research has resulted in an estimate that Mary had contaminated, quote, at least 122 people, including 5 dead, end quote. Other sources attribute at least 3 deaths to contact with Mary, but because of health officials' inability to persuade her to cooperate, the exact number is not known. Some have estimated that contact with her may have caused 50 fatalities. But in 2013, we're going in our way forward machine now.
Way forward.
Yeah. In a 2013 article in the Annals of Gastroenterology, the authors concluded, quote, the history of Mary Mallon declared unclean like a leper may give us some moral lessons on how to protect the ill and how we can protect from illness. By the time she died, New York health officials had identified more than 400 other healthy carriers of Salmonella typhi, but no one was forcibly confined or victimized as an unwanted ill. Two scholarly sources. Sorry, that's really hard to say. Two scholarly, my God. Two sources combined. 2 scholars walk into a bar. One says, hey, let's provide a conclusion. Oh my God. 2 scholars' sources combined to provide this conclusion. Quote, this case highlighted the problematic nature of the subject and the need for an enhanced medical and legal social treatment model aimed at improving the status of disease carriers and limiting their impact on society, end quote. Other healthy typhoid carriers I identified in the first quarter of the 20th century include Tony Labella, who's an Italian immigrant. Another thing, everybody who's listening to this, when I get a migraine, I get the auras and then my speech slurs. So I'm still relearning how to talk.
And I'm still here just blowing my nose.
So he's Italian. He's presumed to have caused more than 100 cases with 5 deaths. Adirondack guide dubbed him Typhoid John. Like, fuck off, you guys.
Like, what's
presumed to have infected 36 people with 2 deaths. And Alphonse Coutils, who's a restaurateur. He's a restaurant guy and a bakery owner.
Oh, good.
He owns a bakery and a restaurant. The health technology of the era did not have a completely effective solution. There were not a lot of antibiotics, number one, to fight the infection. Gallbladder removal was kind of like out of the question. It's super dangerous. And historians frequently discuss that the argument of Mary knowing that she was infecting her clients with typhoid based on the frequency of the disease being present after her departure. And they also cite the argument that antibiotics did not exist at this time at all. And 10% of those affected by Mary being a carrier of the infection died. By this argument, Mary could be considered a murderer of those 10% if she knew she was a carrier of the disease, but did nothing about it. But at the same time, I argue none of y'all's knew at that point how to properly wash yourselves.
Well, it's not that nobody knew.
Okay?
Yeah. You can't hold her responsible for something that nobody was aware of.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically it. I'm going to leave it there.
That's crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine. So, like, quarantined her entire life for not doing anything.
Pretty much, yeah. 23 years.
I mean,
like,
you signed an affidavit that you acknowledged, and then you...
Yeah.
Then you did something wrong. But, I mean, that's a long time.
But at the same time, like, I get it. It's like, at the time, you're like, hey, yeah, I'll sign whatever. Just get me the fuck out of here. Yeah. And then... if you're under the conviction that you know you're not a carrier and you've done all these independent tests that have proven that you aren't, you're like, at some point when you're not making the money you need to make, desperate times, desperate measures, like, you got to look out for number one. Okay, you got to go and take this job. But yeah, it doesn't make it any more right or wrong. But that's Mary.
Thank you, Christy, for that microbrew. I can't even.
So welcome.
I've been thinking of that one for a while. Like, that's. To think that this one woman just had to go through all of that and to have no symptoms whatsoever too on top of it.
Yeah. Like, imagine if...
I'm glad that that's not our world now.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had to endure a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, and then especially in the heat of the moment when it's like the whole outbreak is happening and you're just like, okay, like, I know a lot of people did and a lot of people didn't listen to public health officials and their recommendations and stuff like that. But like in the heat of the moment when you don't even know, and like I was pregnant at the time. So I'm like, comply. Cause I don't even fucking know what to expect. I don't want to lose my child. And, but I also I spent pretty much that whole entire year of his life was just isolated, because like the first time my mom met my kid she was wearing a mask and gloves. That's no way to do it, but hindsight's always 20/20, and
we lived through it, so
yeah,
there's that to be grateful for.
Yeah, but let's not.
We have our health kind of sort of. You got a migraine.
Let's not call people like COVID Terry or
right. I'm gonna call you Migraine Christy for now on.
Right? Yeah. Like fucking chlamydia Chelsea. That was just I see where that went. I was just going for the alliteration, but it didn't even work because it's not the same. Like,
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Anyway, my dear.
All right.
It's time to put my son to bed and then myself.
Yes. Okay, so again, this is a regular episode released. This microbrew is a regular episode on your streaming apps on May 1st. You can binge listen to all of our microbrews on our Patreon until
There's a lot of good episodes out there. So
until about why can't I bring my fucking map or not my map, my calendar up. Anyways, until about May 3rd, I think. And you can also find us on our socials. We're on Facebook at Homebrew Murder Crew.
We're on Instagram at Homebrew Murder Crew. We're on Twitter at Homebrew MC, I believe it is. Yes. And you can also email us.
Yes.
Go ahead.
homebrewmurdercrew@gmail.com. We'd love to have your personal stories, anything that you've been through, any cases you'd like to hear us cover. Please let us know. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. We love you guys.
Migraine Christy signing out.
Sicky Brittany signing out too. Don't know what I got, but whatever.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Like, share, and support. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.